sayings of Jesus that is incompatible with Mark. Now, what is it? What is Q? Well, some very, very fine work has been done on Q. And I'd like to bring you up to date on a little bit of it. And let's see what we can do with it. Ah, there we are. All right, now Q. And by the way, even though it's earlier in Matthew than in and Luke, the reason for it, however, is that Luke is much appears to have a keener grasp of Greek and the literary form of Greek, and therefore his expression of Q is far more literary correct than Matthew. But there's certain material in Matthew that is abbreviated that is not in Luke, but so enough of that. All right, Q, what is it? It appears to be in three levels, three distinct levels. The first appears to be wisdom literature. What do they mean by wisdom literature? There's a bunch of sayings of Jesus that can be identified, that these statements can be shown to correspond to the wisdom tradition of the Hellenistic period. The sages, right, living at the time and that preceded Christianity. Now, if that's the case, you see, the first analysis of Q developed this thesis that Q is wisdom literature. If Q is wisdom literature, and it's common to a Hellenistic period, well, then how did Christianity then bring in these other elements, a post-resurrection hypothesis, the whole crucifixion or passion element, the whole development of Paul, and all of these ideas, since you can't find these ideas in Q? Must have a different origin. The different origin may then be that the figure of Jesus bears a close relationship to the kind of wisdom traditions going on at the time, not from the Hebraic tradition, not from the Jewish tradition, but from the Greek tradition. Now, what does that mean? That's the shocker, because everyone for many, many years has wanted to show that Christianity could be seen to emerge from Judaism as a reform, as a revolt, as an eclectic, right? And these hypotheses can't be verified if you look at Q. Now, further analysis came along and they said, wait a minute, there's an element of Q you can separate which is prophetic. You can literally see it. Next hypothesis. It appears that you can date this material, and this is early, and this is later. Well, then you might ask, what was going on at the time that could have generated this difference? Well, now comes in many interesting things. This means now that you can now ask, what kind of people were living at the time? Is it possible to take the New Testament and locate all of the cities and the places in the New Testament where Jesus is said to have gone, and see whether you can then get a map of his journeys? If you can, it's clear that he came out of and brought his original teachings into Galilee, out of Galilee. He returned to Galilee many times, as well as Decapolis. What does that mean? Well, now we have the advantage of getting a nice new view of what Galilee was at the time. And this is the picture that emerges. Galilee was the city, actually it's a region, right? It's a region through which the great conquests passed. It was also a city that had an access to the sea through the roads, major roads. It was a hub of commerce. It was a very exciting place to live. It was only annexed by the Jews at 100 BC. Before that, it was not. And they fiercely opposed any annexation. Therefore, the following picture emerges. They're not Jewish. They resented the Jewish domination. It was a city, including Tiberias, Galilee, Tiberias, Decapolis, that area, which is by the Sea of Galilee. These cities were Hellenistic. Hellenistic means they were designed, right? They were designed as Hellenistic cities, therefore they had theaters, gymnasiums, libraries, stoas. They had administrative offices. They had all of the elements that brought into existence the Hellenistic thought. Oh. That's where Jesus emerged from. That's a profound difference. How do we know that? It's only because of the recent, no more than the last 25 years, has archaeology and sociology have brought their arts together to explore this region impartially. And this is what they're finding. That this was a rich cultural tradition. And I have a map here that I'll make kind of superimpose quickly for you. I hope I have a map here. I should have a map here. I don't want to use my memory. I will use my memory. Oh, I know where it is. I just want to reproduce just one thing. All right? The coast, right? Phoenicia, right? Galilee, the Sea of Galilee. Tiberias. Now this is Galilee. This is Nazareth. Nazareth is in Galilee. Right? This is Tiberias. This is Gadara. Now, one can walk from Nazareth to Gadara. That is not a long journey at all. One can walk that. Now, Gadara happens to be, at the time, the center of philosophy, the center of literature. There are three major philosophers that lived at this time, at the time of Jesus. They had a rich literature they were developing. They were refurbishing and rethinking and reformulating the heroic myths. They had a very interesting society that was organized along what they call collegia. Or associations. People got together to form brotherhoods and associations. They reworked the stories of Prometheus, Osiris, Adam, Hercules, especially Hercules. That's the literature that was being produced in this area. And it had a vast influence on Tiberias. And out of this, now, what's most interesting is that when we're talking about this area, which runs like this, is collectively called Decapolis. That is the area of 10 Greek cities. They were all founded by the Greeks. They had Greek designs. They had Greek